From the center of the galaxy, live here on a Friday, the 13th. This is ForceCenter Live. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I forgot that we were recording, or not recording, broadcasting live on Spooky Friday the 13th. I was going to say in October, too. No, it's September. It just feels like it's already October because time is chasing me every day.
And I think we want it to be October because of the heat wave that hit LA, 114 at one point in Burbank last week, where you're just like, I'd love some spoopy October weather, which really it will still be hot for a while after. But it's
Probably. It was, within 48 hours, I was just like swimming in sweat. And then my wife and I went to the Hollywood Bowl like 2 nights later. And it's like, I'm chilly. And I got to bundle up. This is an insane time.
Bundle up indeed. We're happy to be hanging out with all of you live today. We're taking some calls from our patron supporters, taking some comments, any questions, and it's in general too. Got some Star Wars thoughts we want to talk about it, want to hear about it, but we are, Joseph, paying tribute to James Earl Jones, who passed away this week, 93 years. What a life, what a legacy, and what he means to Star Wars. It almost goes without saying, but I think it's important to say it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been great to see on social media all of the different thoughts and people sharing what James Earl Jones' performance as Vader means to them, but also just the entirety of his career has been really great, and it is going to be great to celebrate it with people here today. Ken, we always talk about at the top of these what you're enjoying in terms of beverage. What are you enjoying today?
So last minute, I just had water. I had water. I was like, that's all I'm going to do today. And then I was like, nah, so we just got some Stonehammer whiskey on the rocks.
Stonehammer?
Mm-hmm.
Is that some knockoff Game of Thrones family? I don't know.
I don't know. It was one of those birthday gathering things, which you attend over here. The fire pit opens up and people show up with bottles, and I just put it on the shelf. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this today. Stonehammer.
That absolutely sounds like if Will Ferrell made a movie where he was a whiskey mogul, he would be making Stonehammer.
It does. Yeah, it has parody vibes. It's because it's so close to Spinal Tap singing about Stonehenge, I think.
It really does. Well, I have a beer in a can that I picked up at a local store. It is a, let's see the description. It's a Pilsner. It says, prepare thyself for fresh scents of flowers in tart lemon zest with a touch of honey in a crisp, spicy finish. This is a kind of beer that I like, but I didn't buy it really because of the actual fluid that I'm going to put in my mouth. I bought it because it's got a picture of a bear on it.
Oh, man.
And he's got a little hat.
that like looks like a, what is it? A Kate Micucci sketch, in a alley on Trash. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, right. It's like this bear's normally like, I just wandered around, in the woods eating berries, but I got a job interview today, so I got my little hat.
It's like dangerously close to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and then what do I know? I'm just a bear who eats heads off a fish. It's great.
Been too long since I watched that movie, so the bear hat beer.
I love that. Is a Scrimshaw beer. I don't mean a Scrimshaw brand. I mean a Joseph Scrimshaw beer. If I've ever seen one, that is great. I want you to become the spokesman of this beer.
I'll dress up as the bear with the little hat. I'll do it.
That's right. We've got a lot of great comments joining in here, saying hi to everybody. Detective Michael McCarsell is here. Nikki Kumar from Imperial Senate Podcast is waving. Matthew Stokes checking in for the UK. Isn't it the LA Fire Bear? Close.
Smoky. I don't quite have it in reach. I have some Smoky merch as well. I'm into bears these days. Cartoon bears who advertise things.
I mean, Matthew's making a reference. I don't know specifically Matthew's generation, but he might be close to ours. But is Smokey the Bear still a thing? Like, do people know it? I'd hate if the steamroller of pop culture moved on from Smokey.
That's a great cultural question. Smokey is alive and well in Los Angeles. The signs are still, when you walk into the Griffith Park, the weird Smokey signs tell you what level the fire danger is. It's usually red hot.
There you go.
Yeah.
Matthew Stokes is right there with us. Yeah, 45 there. Okay, great. Not, I'm not celebrating your advancing years, Matthew, because we're there too. But
didn't Smokey just have a big anniversary? I think Nikki's right, but I'm also reading this as like a wedding anniversary. Like, it was very beautiful.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Smokey and their partner celebrated. It was beautiful.
Earthquake bears as well. Yeah, earthquake. I felt the one felt the one yesterday. So good. I was still asleep at 7:30 in the morning. Not unusual for me. I wake up about 9. I usually sleep about 2, and I woke up to that earthquake. But I was in a dreamlike state and was like, I think I'm just shaking my bed. So I started shaking my bed and I was like, yeah, it's me. And then just 4.7 in Malibu. No, not a bad one.
They've got that new kind of prediction service that lets you know, in theory, like moments before it happens.
Right.
And that's just started. We didn't do anything, but it started to appear on both my wife and I's phones. We didn't feel anything, and she was about to walk to the door to go to work, and it was like a gaslighting message. She was like, do you have a phone? I think there's something wrong with my phone. It claims there's an earthquake. It's like my phone is like, what are you doing? Dive, hide, cover your head. And like, I felt nothing.
See, I think that I think a lot of us have that app. It would do well if it had Shaky the Bear as a logo, as a brand logo. Be good there as well.
It would, which Smokey's normal shtick wouldn't really work, to be like, only you can stop earthquakes. It'd be like, come on. I can't do anything about this.
Oh, man. We got some calls lined up already. We got some great folks calling in, but I guess, Joseph, my wife's got... Really? Will Dixon, for those on the... We release this as a podcast on Saturdays. Fun fact, says Will Dixon, my wife's grandfather was the official Smokey the Bear letter writer for the U.S. Forestry Service. It's amazing.
The most famous person I've ever heard of. This is amazing. The Smokey... Wow. And so kids would write in. And adults, I'm sure, to Smokey the Bear. Oh, that's delightful.
I want a doc on that. I want a Netflix doc on the letters of Smokey the Bear. That'd be awesome. We will dive in here, but I guess, Joseph, it makes sense if we shared some of our things that we will love and miss and remember of James Earl Jones. We had recorded, as we do, people know the ForceCenter kind of news curse. We had recorded our episodes on Monday, left, and about an hour later, the sad news came that James Earl Jones had passed away. So we were already going to be doing this live stream, so we figured a good spot to do it. But I think, we've shared some stories over the years, but now's our time to celebrate the legacy.
Yeah. I think for me, it's one of those, it's always, of course, a tragedy that any human passes ever. 93 is up there, and what in an amazing life, in an amazing cultural contribution. I think part of it is mourning the man, but I have to be honest that it's also a mourning that this is going to happen more and more with the originals of Star Wars. And I'm definitely feeling the pain of that as well. And we have lost people who are involved, but John Williams is getting older. George Lucas is getting older. Ben Burtt is getting older. Harrison Ford, like it's that just sort of reality of your heroes aren't always here hit me pretty hard with this passing. So I wanted to be honest about my own emotional response to it. And in terms of just celebrating his work, there's also this level of honesty of, I have so much deep respect for the length of his career and for the vastness of his career. And given the success that he had as a black man, as a black artist in the eras that he did, in the level of success he had, it's an extremely important career. So I have like the utmost respect for that. I love him in every role I've ever seen. But then there's also that, but to me, he's the voice of Vader. And that's for me, it's an interesting conversation to have, because I feel like I saw lots of posts where people shared his non-Vader stuff. And then I saw some posts that are just, rest in peace, Darth Vader. And like, I'm a Star Wars guy. My main connection to the man is Vader, but also I always want to acknowledge that he was much more than that and did much more than that as well.
I'm with you on that, and that's obviously where the connection comes from. We're going to talk about probably our journeys of learning that there was a name attached to that voice, right? That had a long list of credits, and learning, David Prowse in the suit, Bob Anderson in the suit, all that stuff, and it's truly a team effort. But James Earl Jones made his mark with that name. But yeah, I'm with you too. I go to other things as well. yeah, we talk about Field of Dreams. I posted about Field of Dreams in one of my favorite moments ever in cinema. But yeah, it's hard not to separate from Vader. But yeah, as 898 for him says, he has an EGOT. He's an EGOT. So that's why. So if you're calling in today, we expect a lot of Darth Vader memories. But if you got something else, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to talk about him reading the alphabet on Sesame Street. Like one of the great moments in pop culture too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, this is CNN. That's a banger for me. That was in that window when, which we've talked about a lot recently, where Star Wars was gone, and it's like I know that's not Darth Vader, but hey, when I'm watching depressing news on CNN, I get this little dopamine hit from like, yeah, but that's also Darth Vader saying this is CNN.
I love that you said that because for me, I heard that most in the late 80s. I don't know his entire run as the voiceover for CNN guy. Maybe it's still going. I don't know. I had CNN on today. I didn't hear it before Dana Bash came on. Dana Bash. But late 80s, Star Wars is in a little shadowy period. I'm watching baseball every Saturday morning and Sunday morning. I think CNN had a baseball show I watched. And when his voice came on at the top of the hour, I felt comfortable. I felt home. I didn't even fully comprehend it. But Darth Vader was here to watch baseball with me.
That makes a ton of sense. How do you when you process for yourself, Ken, his performance as Vader, the mix of the childhood reaction, the adult reaction, once you understand that it's an acting role that he did, and you're talking about your journey of realizing that there are multiple people involved in Vader. Where does your mind go with James Earl Jones as the voice of Vader?
It's perfection in so many ways. And then, you learn the whole story and, Prowse kind of wanting to do it. And you hear the clips, that Empire of the Dreams clip that's going around of them talking about, we hadn't even heard Vader yet. Was this it? It's not meant to be disparaging toward David Prowse, who also I think did a great job, which we celebrated him as well when he passed. But to have that voice come in and just, along with John Williams, it's one of the things that if it's not there, and I don't know what the alternative is, but if it's not there, I just really don't think this all adds up to as big as it was. It was truly part of it, truly part of just the menacing feel of this villain that was on screen for 17 minutes, 12 minutes? What's the totals? Like they're out there. It's less than 20 minutes that Vader's in A New Hope, but it's memorable because of that. And to young kids who, I didn't know his credits before that. Of course, I didn't know. This is where I learned who he was. And I'll be honest, I was kind of disappointed when I learned that, that's not the actual voice. Not even like, it's not David Prowse's voice. I was like, that's not a real thing. That's not a real robot walking around saying that. Disappointed me a little bit as a 7 and 8-year-old.
Yeah, that fact that they recorded, the voice over for New Hope in 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is that's been traveling around is fascinating, because we do think of that's A New Hope. Star Wars at the time was the birth of Vader. So how could a legend be created in 2 hours? But it is less dialogue than the other original trilogy films. There was a clip going around that was on social media that was just audio of James Earl Jones recording a phone call-in hype ad for Empire Strikes Back.
Oh wow, I didn't see that.
It's amazing because it's such a product of its time. The dialogue, I'm paraphrasing, was something along the line of, the rebels may have rescued the princess and destroyed the Death Star, but the Force is much more powerful than the Death Star, and we will strike back. May 1980, the Empire strikes back.
Yeah,
and there's a lot. There've been a lot of clips of him behind the scenes going around that show you a little bit of his process. But it was amazing because he was being a real perfectionist about it in a good way. And the first reading was like, wait, you just read the line. And then he's like getting into Vader just by stretching basically stretching consonants mostly. If it's like, oh, you may have destroyed the Death Star. And he's like, you may have destroyed the Death Star. And like, oh, yeah, this little inflection. And now you're not, Vader. Now you're not, Terrence, whoever in Field of Dreams, Terrence Mann,
Terrence Mann, yeah.
Terrence Mann in Field of Dreams. Now you're Vader. It was fascinating to watch. His process.
I'm going to seek that out. That's amazing. And, I know there's a lot of, his voice will live on in a certain way. And there's some talk about that I think is important to have, but he did sign off on some of that stuff. So cross that bridge when it first shows up. But you can never replicate that to me. That the human choices that he makes over which syllable Darth Vader would draw out. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. We should do the obligatory. Do you have a favorite line reading of Vader? A favorite acting moment?
I'm trying to get to like a series, like, him and Luke in Return of the Jedi in the final fight, which is one of my favorite things. And, a sister or twin sister, like I could live with that. But I got to tell you, the one that I think over the years I've said the most to myself, to my dogs, is talking to Veers, like, General, prepare your men for our surface attack. It's like the way he just hits every syllable. And it's, I don't want to say tittier. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not as great with words, but it's just like, it's not up front Vader. It's just like, he's almost like not away from the mic, but just like Vader's just kind of like, his head is rattling inside the mask. So he's away from even the technology inside of his mask to make him loud. He's just like, surface attack. And it just, every syllable is Vader pissed, and I've always loved that one. I said that one for years.
I mean, there are a couple for me. The what when he gets hit by the Falcon is great.
What?
It's for the special edition, but I've joked about it before. Goes so hard on the prepare the Star Destroyer for my arrival. It's great. But the one that is being shared here by Will Dixon.
There you go. Yep.
But you are not a Jedi yet. I saw another clip talking about working with George Lucas on the voice, and both kind of deciding that, like, we want it to be a little mysterious of whether there's a human in there. So we want range, we want variety, but we really want it within this sort of like tight window of emotion. And I think that's always going to be just one of my favorite Vader lines, but just from an actor perspective, from a director perspective, the power of that line is in just a tiny amount of variation in tone. There's so much weight to it. The fact that this absolutely terrifying, ominous, huge figure at the top of a staircase could be booming Skeletor, anime villain shouting it, but just "you are not a Jedi yet" is so ominous and so just like undercuts any confidence Luke could have.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing performance. It's my favorite line of his performance.
It's a truth, right? It's a hard truth that Luke probably fears in his soul, and the ghost of Anakin hits it just right. Oh, the father that was and was again. But love that. That's amazing. We got a few coming in here. We can take a call. I'm just having fun, and I it's hard. I'm not a voice actor or an impressionist or anything. So if I slip into a bad Vader, I apologize, everybody. Yeah. It's hard not to. I'm not doing it good. But
one of the things we all want to do as Star Wars fans, I think, is impressions of our favorite lines.
Yep. That one's good. Douglas Dubois saying sister, like I said, it's just it's so deep. Alan Smith, they bring an apology accepted, Captain Nita. That one rings true. David McKay's got one I love, Joseph. No disintegrations.
Yeah, that is a high quality one, and a harder one too. That's a great example to be like, it implies an entire history.
It does.
It's a hard, sometimes, like, actors win, Emmys and Oscars for the tearful, revealing emotion scenes. Those scenes are kind of easier because you know exactly where you're at. You're feeling something. The lines that don't actually tell you how you should feel about them are much, much harder to act. So making it convincing to say no disintegrations is quite impressive.
Oh, I love that. Any other favorites there for you? And then we can get to a call here. I think we got some great stories too. Look at this.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of great suggestions coming in. The one I've seen people saying a lot online, and I agree with, is "It is too late for me, my son."
Yeah. Yeah, and Alex Cameron has helped me take this mask off. It's so good. So good. I like these ones. Neil Hancock said, "Asteroids do not concern me, Admiral." It's just, and that's the kind of like humor, that I think you pick up on later with Hayden, even Jake Lloyd early, but even the Clone Wars series. I love some of those like. And people are bringing in the Rogue One stuff of be careful not to choke on your aspirations, director, which has been a much debated sequence, and a Vader dad joking away, but it's not out of place based off the established lore of this character's attitude. And I think a line of "asteroids do not concern me" falls into that.
I love that line. Will never be my favorite from a written perspective, but he does a great job on the delivery. But he makes that a kind of wild choice in Rogue One that I really like. Doesn't say Director Krennic, he says Director Krennic.
Director Krennic.
So good. Yeah, I will throw out one other one from Return of the Jedi that always gets stuck in my head is "there is no conflict."
Yeah.
You know he's lying, but
yeah, we did that big breakdown too of Luke and Vader on the platform as Luke turns himself in, and that's a great example of Prowse in the costume on set, bringing it, and then James Earl Jones in the booth, and Gaz doing the actual quote here. He's as clumsy as a stupid apple pair. Troops first, surface attack. That's the one I love so much. That surface attack that I just it slides out so powerfully. Yeah. Where was this? Sorry, I moved away from the. I was going to ask you for 8984 and brings up the New Hope. Don't be proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. I just want to see the clip of him in the booth on that 2-hour session going, "What is this? All right." What movie is this?
I think he was so game, right? I'm sure other people know more detailed interviews about his feelings about Star Wars. I'm not aware of him ever having any sort of Harrison Ford or Alec Guinness sort of mixed emotions about it. I love imagining him in the booth then, not knowing what this is going to be, and being like, "You need me to get through that?" And and it has to be this fast because that's how much footage we have.
Right.
And you can't cut away. I love that compared to thinking of like Alec Guinness getting one of these lines and going, "George, can I tweak that for you? Can I tweak that for you?" And he's just in there going, "I'm saying whatever you got."
I love that. Great list is there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one. Now his failure is complete. The way he eats at the end.
Love that as well. Thanks to the super chat from Matthew Stokes, James Earl Jones. More than Vader's voice. Yes, he is. But we are definitely celebrating Vader's voice here right now. Also, great stories. Laserbolt says, "Young James Earl Jones grew up near where I live in Michigan and did many performances at the local playhouse here. Years later, was in a play on the same stage and it was exciting for us all." Could you imagine? That's amazing. Great stuff, Laserbolt. Great stuff indeed. We have got some calls. Do you want to get to our buddy PLD here? He's waiting so patiently. I see it on his face in the background there. PLD, Paul Denuso from PLD Projects and Holy Snooks Podcast with Maddie Gunner. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. A little sad still. This was a tough one to get over, I gotta say. It's about 2015 or 16 where celebrity deaths really started hitting me. When David Bowie went, that was the first one that really kind of struck me. But you mentioned we're all getting a little older now. We're starting to lose all of our faces that we knew and loved growing up. But how about you guys, man? How are you guys doing?
Much like Joseph said earlier, I can echo some of the feelings of you look around, people sometimes share those photos. There's one, and I get why people share it, so it's not me attacking them, but it's like the cast of A New Hope or something at a press event, and all but Harrison and Mark are shadowed out. I'm like, stop! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that to me. But it's a reality, and you face it. And these people do mean so much to us, and they're pop culture icons, and they're real human beings, and sometimes that line can be confusing and challenging, but not with a person like James Earl Jones. And I don't know. It's like when my favorite baseball player died early of cancer. Like I bawled so hard that day, not just sad for him, the man and his family, but like it was a grieving of a part of my youth. You know, it was like having to face that. And it's just something like this comes along. And even though it's a long life, a wonderful life, it's just, it's as a Star Wars fan, yeah, you're a little sad that he's not walking around this earth.
Yeah. I think, David Bowie and Prince, they were very hard because they were at an age where, they would have been continuing to make art for quite a long time. Yeah. But David Bowie and Prince kind of feel similar to me of James Earl Jones of like, they feel like such a fixture of our life and our worlds. It's like waking up one day and like, you know what? We don't have rain anymore, or there aren't mountains. Like they feel like such a part of sort of our world that it's
tangible kind of, loss.
It's tangible, and it's like it's hard, and it's kind of beautiful that just these normal human beings, these mortal human beings, have made that big of an impression.
Absolutely. I have a couple of quick memories I'd like to throw out there.
Yeah, please.
I know somebody's going to throw out Field of Dreams, so I'll leave that for somebody else. That's a big one for me. But I had a personal one I want to mention. I went to Duer University as my college. I graduated in 1998, and that, I know it's dating me very much, but my commencement speaker was James Earl Jones.
Get out of here.
And so I was like in love at that moment. And he had a great speech, so humble, so inspiring. And of course, he dropped a few Star Wars quotes in there. He would say, like, if you're going to waste your education, don't make me destroy you. And it ended up with a big "May the Force be with you." And I was so excited and so happy to be just even in the same arena as him at that point. But further beyond that, I also want to point out, everybody's saying, he's more than Vader. He absolutely is. But I think one of the things I loved about him so much was he was so humble. He understood his place. He understood his legacy. He never got upset about that. I remember like the Big Bang Theory episode, which I know some people don't like the show, whatever. Right. I get it. But the episode when he was on and like Sheldon's like, he's like, I've done more than Star Wars, And then what was the next thing? But I want to tell you something. I like Star Wars too. He got all in there. He got Carrie Fisher for the first time on that set, and just an exciting time for Myth. And the one last comic thing I want to say: Letterman's top 10 things that only sound cool when James Earl Jones says it. Like J-Lo in the house.
I love. Thank you for sharing those, Paul. And I agree with you. And Joseph, you were talking earlier about like there's nothing on record that no bitter letters like Alec Guinness left of doing this silly space movie, but we still celebrate Alec nonetheless. But I do agree with you, PLD, that he knew his place in the most wonderful, warm way, which in a way that I felt Mark Hamill for decades, even outside of Star Wars when it wasn't going. Hamill got what it was. I'm sure at times he might have been frustrated that Luke was it and this and that, and he had this wonderful voiceover career going, and maybe that was what people would see him as. But I think he just knew his place with the fans, and I think James Earl Jones continued to celebrate us. I like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear about that commencement speech, because that's not a reporter putting a microphone in his face and him being political about it in his positivity. That's a choice to be like, I know these kids see me as Vader as a part of my legacy, so why not? Let's have fun with it. That's a beautiful story. Thank you.
It was very fun at the time, and I have it on tape somewhere. I have to dig it out. I'm going to dig it out and have to watch it again tonight. It's been a while, but I do have it for sure.
There you go. There you go.
One last thing before I go, I'd like to give my one Vader line I haven't heard yet. When he at his most angry, I think I felt the rumble in his belly there. You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Captain Piet, blah, 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 blah. You are in command now, Admiral Piet.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that is great.
Absolutely, yeah. Angry Vader, but it's like Office Space angry Vader. It's like middle management Vader. Mad at his underlings. I love that. Thank you, PLD, for checking in. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
All right. I love that. Yeah, we've talked about my love for the Imperial officers, which is a weird thing, but it's some of that. It's just they're all scrambling for a little bit of territory to call a professional home, and you got this kind of boss on the loose, just kind of causing problems for you, choking you if you're wrong.
Yeah, it's very relatable. We've all had bad bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we got more calls and more questions to take, but Ken, I gotta ask you. Um, my wife was working late one night this week, and I have never seen Field of Dreams, so I watched it for the first time this week.
Nice.
I know it is seminal to you, that it's a big deal, so I kind of wanted to hear some of your Field of Dreams memories of James Earl Jones and that connection.
Yeah, I love that film. And the first thing I always say, because it seems to end arguments or debates, because life is not an episode of movie fights. It's not a baseball film, right? It's definitely set in the world and knowing the history of it and everything and the love of the game. And it's remembered for James Earl Jones' baseball speech. And if you build it, that will come, all that stuff. The thing that I gravitate towards him in that movie is he is played an older activist, Terrence Mann, an author who was there, who not unlike, but different, but not unlike Luke Skywalker going to an island and say, that was a little bit more of Luke saying, I think I messed up again, I can do it. But he goes away and finds another way to fight. And that's a personal choice that everyone can make of how you want to fight. And the fight is social issues and social change. And I love that he's, I love the comedy of it, especially when Kevin Costner shows up. And what do you want, a cookie? Like, you just everything about it. Plus, you get to see James Earl Jones. You get to see Darth Vader grab a bat. Like, it's all of.
Yeah, a crowbar, because that was my favorite line. Because he's like, I'm going to hit you with the crowbar. He just says exactly what he's doing. I freeze framed and took a picture of that.
Peace, love, dope. Like it's and again, 89, and I'm seeing that because I'm a baseball fan, right? I'm seeing that because of that. But I posted on Threads, one of my first major Threads posts. I'm trying to spend more time over there, or at least other spots that aren't owned by Elon. But his Terrence Mann has lost a lot of hope and a lot of faith, and has lost the ability to maybe just be vulnerable about it, and he's disconnected from parts of his youth, and there's this pursuit of the reason he's pursued. I don't want to recap the whole movie, but he had given an interview about dreaming about Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, and he denies it, and he denies that part of himself, and then he sees the words on the wall at Fenway, denies it, and then Kevin Costner's Ray Kinsella gives up. And says the man's done enough. That old Volkswagen van, which I had a Volkswagen van as a kid, or my dad did. And when he spins around and the lights turn around, and Terrence Mann is standing in the street, and he knows he's seen something, and he knows this guy might be right, but he still has this vulnerability that's so strong, and it's this legend, this author, this guy who's changed lives with his work, who's tried to separate from that because. They killed Martin, they killed Bobby, they killed us all, right? Like they killed our soul. And just to have him sitting there in those headlights is one of my favorite shots. And to be like, what did I see? You saw it, goes Ray Kinsella. What did I see, Ray? But he's still there, and he takes this amazing leap forward. It gives me chills. It's one of my favorite moments, and it could only be delivered by this Shakespearean-trained, stage-trained actor who's standing before the cameras and playing the little emotion, the vulnerability, but built in this presence that is both James Earl Jones, Darth Vader, and this author, Terrence Mann. I just love it, and it's one of my favorite films, in a large part because of James Earl Jones in that film.
I really loved it. It was not the movie that I kind of thought it might be by 1989. Every time that I had kind of made a gesture toward trying to understand sports, I had a bad experience, and I had some negative experiences with, not all sports fans are the same, but I'd had some negative experiences where sports fans were very much like, this is the way things are. We don't like weird books. We don't like counterculture. It's, mom, baseball and apple pie, and a real rigid anti-art. Those are some of the sports fans. I'm not painting everybody with that brush, but those are some of the negative experiences that I'd had. So I was like, everybody tells me this movie is good. I don't know if it'll be for me. And find out that it's not really a baseball movie. It's remember in the 60s when we had ideals and dreams and we took chances on our dreams and we believed impossible things, and we had the naivete of hope and said, if we loved something as a child and it fired us up and it made us vulnerable and it made us love our weird dad more, what if we return to those beliefs of youth? phenomenal. And just in the surface level subject matter of who the characters are and how much it is. I like, by the 80s, what did we lose in our belief systems of the 60s? That's just the surface level, but you're right. It's totally like, I kind of started to crack up by, all the gender dynamics were wrong, but it's like I kept hearing Darth Vader say Rey.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it really does connect to it. It's you could dub in the Jedi Steps music when Kevin Costner's Rey is trying to get James Earl Jones' character to come back into the fight. It's totally Last Jedi stuff, and that you're right. That moonlight, that moment with when he says "Moonlight Graham" and he's standing outside the van, it's so vulnerable and such a beautiful moment of admitting I saw something, which is explicitly the plot, but also it's, to me, in that real life way, admitting that you could dream a little bit and take a risk instead of just be the safe answer is to say I have all the answers and that's impossible. But I can't deny I saw a glimmer of hope. It's a really beautiful moment. I'm glad you pointed it out on social media because it made me go, all right, I want to watch more of his work. I gotta check this out.
Yeah. I'll not turn this into a 2-hour Field of Dreams, but that whole him in that film is mesmerizing. That whole sequence, every choice he makes when he's kind of like at that moment, kind of like, all right, I'm walking away. This guy's giving me out. I'm gonna get out of the van, and he does the like dealer hands. Yep. It's like it's mesmerizing. And again, growing up, James Earl Jones was a voice to me. That includes CNN. I knew he had some other credits, and I remember seeing him. I think it's Conan, right? The Barbarian. I saw as a clip as a kid. I was like, what is this? And I was learning that actors have careers and resumes, other choice. So for a long period of time, I just didn't see him as an actor. I just saw him as this voice, and voice actors are very much actors. But you know what I mean? Like it was just James Earl Jones. He just does the Vader voice, and that was the first time I experienced him as he is, a amazing, powerful performer. So that's why I love that film for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Really great to hear your insight on it. A lot of people are talking about Conan the Barbarian, which I also missed as a kid. I think that's going to be a slightly different experience than Field of Dreams, but I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, and then Field of Dreams, the school board scenes being frighteningly relevant in 2024 is something too that's there for the mining.
There was a lot going on in that movie. This is the last thing I'll say about here on Field of Dreams Center. It's also a great film to watch now in the modern context of film, and a thing that I've been banging on about. Some of, I think, the caution in the industry has made people hew more closely to a rigid 3-act structure and make sure the audience is never confused. Field of Dreams, for being a feel-good baseball movie, is also a wild bleeping movie where things weird bleep happens and it does not hold the audience's hand. It treats you that is an emotionally intelligent being, where you can say, maybe there's a logical reason that's happening, and maybe the logic doesn't matter. Maybe it's the emotion that matters. It's not the kind of film that's getting made a lot these days, and it used to be the mainstreamest of mainstream films. So I'd also encourage people to watch it with that in mind.
I love it. We maybe this will be another Center Reviews Field of Dreams, because I could talk about it for a long time. It hits on and not to mention, Dad, you want to have a catch could choke me up even now as I talk about it. So yeah, it's powerful. And I have one particular friend. We're not close, but he played baseball. He played Major League Baseball, and but once a year he'll just tweet out, "This movie's horrible. It's not a baseball film." And I have yet to engage him with, "Yep, you solved it. Now come to love it." It's like, yes, exactly. Major Leagues may be more of a baseball film. This is not a baseball film. Anyways, but this is part. I'm happy to keep talking about this film. We won't, but it's big, and that's why I post about it. Is I could spend hours talking about him as Vader. That performance moves me. It haunts me in a good way. You know what I mean? Like. Hearing him say "Moonlight Graham," I hear it in my sleep sometimes. It's so good. Yeah. So many good things. You know what, Joseph, you favored this question. I think it's a good time to answer it as we transition to a call. We got Orlando saying, "Hey, ForceCenter, will you be continuing the Bond reviews?" The short answer is yes. There's just ForceCenter caveats behind that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, in all honesty, with I don't know, a quarter of my beer
Mm-hmm.
gone, bear hat
Mm-hmm.
with the beer. Uh, um,
Mm-hmm.
we had so much fun doing them. We ran into time constraints for
Yeah.
that. Ken's been multitasking like mad. I really started to focus on this feature film that I'm trying to make, and that keeps escalating in the amount of work.
Yeah.
We were also experimenting of like we wanted to do them for the fun of them, the love of them. We wanted to do them as an extra bonus to Patreon members because we wanted to give Patreon members even more. We also got kind of jazzed that there was a a la carte buy option on Patreon,
Right.
and we had hoped that there would be more sales of a la carte sales.
Yeah.
So we still want to do them, but it's a battle of time.
Yeah, battle time. Having a lot of fun doing a job I have now. I'm one of the writers for a YouTube channel called The Y Files, which is keeping me busy. And like this week, I'm writing about quantum physics. I'm not smart enough to write about quantum physics, but it's been my week, and it's just and Joseph's putting together this film that is not small scale, and it's not a weekend of fun. You're putting together something big and impressive, and it's just taking a lot of our time, but we're happy to be here with all of you. So keep the faith. I was at Amazon on the other night, Amazon Prime, and I scrolled past Skyfall, and I was like, ooh, we got to get to this because I do want to watch that and talk about it. So it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I rewatched No Time to Die a little while back. It's like, it's going to take us a couple months before we get to this one. So I'm watching it, damn it. But
yeah,
thank you to everybody who's watched and everybody who's replied and shared their own thoughts and observations on Patreon. If you're a Patreon member, you can scroll back and check them out. And yeah, come hell or high water, we will finish the Daniel Craig Bond films.
Yeah. And a Final Field of Dreams thing, Still Bill says, they were all still Force ghosts, right? You know that, right? In Field of Dreams, and that's true. It's Star Wars. It's Star Wars in modern times. We got a call. We got our resident professor in the call queue here, and I always want to bring her in because I never know if she's grading papers for the future of our country, and we want to get her back to work. But Addie is calling in here today. Addie, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ken. How are you?
We're having a good time here. As best we can, paying tribute.
I was grading papers earlier in the show, but now I'm looking at a lot of data. So save me.
You're saved. Professor Addie is here, says 8984. So what are some memories of James Earl Jones? Tell us, share.
So obviously Vader. I was a 90s kid though. So my first exposure to James Earl Jones, because I didn't see Star Wars until the special editions came out. I can vividly remember my father buying the box set on VHS from QVC.
Nice.
We want to talk about outdated references. And
sorry, I hit the wrong button.
So my first James Earl Jones memory is Mufasa in The Lion King.
Right.
Seminal classic. And just absolutely love everything about that one. Field of Dreams is another one. I absolutely love that movie. It was one of those movies that always seemed to be on TBS or TNT in the days of cable. So you could always catch it on a Saturday afternoon. But here lately, I was thinking about this earlier today. I think, it sounds terrible to say, I think my absolute favorite James Earl Jones performance of recent memory was his guest appearance on The Big Bang Theory.
But hey,
it
works.
I absolutely love that show. Sometimes just randomly in my head, I hear James Earl Jones say, "Ay, ay, ay, bang, bang," which is just
it's a good ringtone.
What in the world? He talks about taking Sheldon to Comic-Con so that they can go to Tijuana and get drunk. Like, it's just, it's such a James Earl, it's such a side of James Earl Jones. You know, you have the Shakespearean actor, you have the serious, performances that he had, the voiceover work he did. And I feel like it was just so unexpected and is such a good time. I mean, they prank Carrie Fisher and she yells at him from her front porch that it's not funny anymore, James, which implies that James Earl Jones is constantly ding-dong ditching Carrie Fisher. It's just, everything about it is everything that I loved about him, and just his story, how he had a stutter growing up, how he was effectively mute for a lot of his childhood. Like, he's such a powerful figure and voice, and it makes me sad that he's gone. But very lucky that we have all of these great performances to go back to with him. That's what I'm feeling right now.
That's great. I knew he was on Big Bang Theory, but I've never seen that episode, so I'll have to search that one out. These are some great descriptions.
It's in one of the later seasons. Big Bang Theory is admittedly my fall asleep show, so I just watch it in cycle. Because unlike, I know somebody else said like it's not a lot of people didn't like. I absolutely loved that show because, quite frankly, as a science academic, I've met those people. They exist. But yeah, I just watch it. I watch it on repeat in the background while I fall asleep at night. And it's one of the later seasons. The whole premise is that Sheldon couldn't get tickets to Comic-Con, so he's going to make his own comic book convention, and he's trying to find guests to appear at his comic book convention. And he stalks James Earl Jones via Twitter.
It sounds like it is of its time then. Yeah. Already beautifully dated. Yeah, I love what you're pointing out too, just about the different elements of his career, particularly that he had lots of roles where he played a powerful authority figure. Things like the Patriot Games type films where he's sort of the government boss who's laying down the law. Rules.
He's Patriot Games. Yeah.
A friend of mine had like one of those, I can't remember a list of films, and like the things that were connecting them were James Earl Jones saying very specific government leader lines to people in two entirely different films. But it's one of the things I love, when somebody has a stature like that, it's so great to do comedy of it, because comedy is the more sharp the contrast, the better. And it would be funny if Mark Hamill was pranking Carrie Fisher all the time. It would be funny. But it's way funnier that deadly serious Shakespearean actor, government official, man with deep gravitas would do that is a much better comic contrast. So I love that element of it.
That's wonderful. Addie, before we let you go, I'm glad you brought up the Lion King thing, Mufasa, because I think that's my fiance's first exposure to him. And I love those perspectives of, instead of, oh, Darth Vader's in this Lion King, it's now, oh, Mufasa's in Star Wars, which is a wonderful perspective change. But we have a comment here from Vegas at Pinehaven who says, I hope Addie says, where's Padme as your favorite line? So as one of ForceCenter's leading Padme fans, I do want to discuss for a second him coming back to say in 2005, where's Padme? What do you feel about that line?
Is she safe? Is she all right?
Great.
That's not when you were talking about favorite Vader quotes earlier, the first one that came to mind is the slow but rapid succession of, you are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor, take her away.
Take her away, yeah.
Like, just, he draws out certain syllables, but it's also so clipped and fast. To the Revenge of the Sith of it all, it was jarring for me in 2005, which I'm sure it was for a lot of people.
Yep.
I think it might have just been because I wasn't expecting it. Like, I wasn't expecting James Earl Jones, and then I never in my wildest dreams could imagine Darth Vader asking about Padme. I don't know why. Like, I hadn't put those two things together. So yeah.
Well, I'll pick up quickly in the passage you, Joseph. Like, but I'm with you. I was one of those 2005 people of, no, I couldn't believe. Well, no, but also just like, you got James Earl Jones back, and he's talking about Padme. And I'm not saying this is you, but I then missed the boat, much like Field of Dreams is not a baseball movie. Yeah, well, duh. It was like, yeah, this is why Anakin fell. And so now I feel years later, and sometimes when you process these things and you take around, it was jarring in 2005. But to have now I love that we had James Earl Jones saying the name Padme as Darth Vader, because that's what's in Anakin's heart at that time. So it's become one of my cherished sequences, but it wasn't always. And I think that's part of our growth and journey here as fans.
Yeah,
exactly. And as my father pointed out to me, like, my father and I always saw Star Wars together. He saw Star Wars in 1977 when he graduated from high school, and he's gone to see all of the movies in theaters. And so that's a thing he and I would do, is go to see Star Wars. And he pointed out to me, maybe that years later, he was like, that's the final turn. That's the final twist of the knife of how the Emperor turned Vader is lying to him that Padme is dead. Palpatine doesn't necessarily know that, and he doesn't necessarily know that he killed her. But he tells him that to let him know, like, this is over. She's gone. You are mine now.
Yeah. Palpatine's just telling him what he read on Coruscant Twitter, the press release from Naboo, right? I had a slightly different experience of it in 2005, because I think with all my various ups and downs with the prequels, I wanted to see more Vader, but going into the theater, it wasn't like I want to see half this movie of him killing Jedi. I didn't have that Vader bloodlust that some of us in our generation did.
At the time I did, yeah.
I wanted the movie to be about, how can I in my head line up and go, they're the same guy, this charming, handsome young man, a little deranged, but charming. He's got his problems. But the fact that the first lines of dialogue from that distinctive Vader voice were still ones of, compassion. I loved that in the theater, and then I was bummed out by the no. So it was a roller coaster ride for me. It's like, I loved, where's Padme? Is she safe? Is she all right? It's like, yeah, that's exactly what he would be asking, because he doesn't know that the page turned and I'm a monster now and the whole galaxy hates me. He's still focused on his objective. He did all this for Padme. And then the no was a little too much for me back then.
And now you're making me think about it. I almost feel like maybe what was jarring is that, like, the voice was James Earl Jones, the voice was Vader, but what he was saying, like, were things I would expect to come out of Hayden Christensen's mouth.
Right. Yeah. How do you feel about it? We were talking about back in the day. How do you feel about it now, Addie?
I mean, I think it's completely logical. It's Padme is the reason he did all of this. Padme is the reason he did the horrific things that he did. And so it's like you said, it makes complete sense that his first question is, I just went through hell. I fought my best friend, I caught fire and had all of my remaining limbs chopped off. Did it work?
It's a Saturday. Yeah.
Did I get my wish by going through all of that?
Yeah. I love it. Well, Addie, thank you so much for sharing your insights and telling us all about the things you love. And get back to doing those math equations and grading papers. All right, we need you on that.
I will do my best. I have a weekend of number crunching ahead of me, so may the force be with us all.
Yes.
Thank you, Addie. The 2005. I'm glad that I came around on it. I admit I was a bloodlust guy. I was a Vader bloodlust guy in 05, Joseph. I sat in that Arcolite Cinerama Dome going, where he only murdered the kids. I want him to kill Jedi. Yeah, so I had to take a different angle on it, which I'm glad I got to.
Yeah. I mean, I would list that in terms of just talking about the actor James Earl Jones. I think that is one of the best deliveries, because that is a challenge, right? These are the first spoken lines of this new creature, Vader, and but it's connected to all this passion. Is she safe? Is she all right? It breaks my heart.
Yeah, as it should. All right, we got some comments, got some questions. If you got comments, questions, super chats, anything you want, you can put it in here. We'll start and get to it. Or we also got some calls coming in from our Patreon supporters. If you're a Patreon supporter, at patreon.com/ForceCenter. I don't post it in the Discord. You actually have to go to the Patreon page to get the link to call in. We take your audio feed here on StreamYard. So if you're looking for it in the Discord, as sometimes happens, it's on the Patreon page there.
Excellent.
All right. We got some, any comment jump out to you here? Any question? I'm looking at
no, I think this is on a lot of people's minds, so maybe we should just talk about it. From Rich T. Did you already cover the idea of still being able to hear James Earl Jones as Vader in future Star Wars materials? So, yeah, there's a lot swirling around about this. James Earl Jones signed off on the building the Vader voice out of his past performances for the television show Kenobi. To my knowledge, there isn't. I don't know if that is also he signed it off to Lucasfilm Forever. Maybe somebody has that fact or knows it. I don't know that off the top of my head. There's also been news that somebody else was talking about. Someone connected to Peter Cushing is just now suing in regards to Rogue One. Obviously, it's a complex issue that goes far beyond Star Wars itself. But for me, I think I did like the voice performance in Kenobi. I thought it was well done, building on. My first choice is always to have a human, but I thought it worked in Kenobi. There's a part of me that feels like it works for Vader. There's another part of me that feels like maybe the spirit of it is hire an actor to continue that legacy and make sure that human component that made us fall in love with Vader from James Earl Jones' performance. Maybe it is more important to have that human connection, even though I personally enjoyed what Vader's voice was in Kenobi. Maybe just as a sort of a tribute to humans. Maybe it should be a human. And people point out the voice actor who's done Vader in a bunch of video games, and I agree.
Scott Lawrence, yes.
Scott Lawrence, and there's another one too. A couple.
There's a few.
People have pointed out. Anyway, those are my initial thoughts on a complicated topic. But it feels like we should acknowledge it.
Yeah, and it's truly complicated. And you're describing something that's similar to me. I mean, I really enjoyed it in Kenobi, and I thought it was an okay thing. And maybe there's something to the fact that it's a voice versus a face. But then I'm with you, too. We just celebrated the top of the show of the decisions James Earl Jones, the actor, made in that booth with the syllables. That sets the template going forward. But even if someone like Scott Lawrence is in a booth for a video game, he's making choices. He's got a template that he maybe has to stay within, but he can still make a choice, and the directors of the video games can make a choice. So I think in spirit, I like that idea, and I'd like to explore it, especially if, let's say, I don't know, let's say there's more than just a flashback sequence in Ahsoka Season 2. Let's say there's an episode with Vader or something like that, however it works, world between worlds, magic can happen. I'd like to explore an actor. I don't know if it will happen. The James Earl Jones, him and his estate, and that's one thing too, is he was alive and well when he signed this deal and made this decision. That sometimes still doesn't work for folks. It works for me a little bit more. Same with like the Carrie Fisher stuff and everything. Like if they or the family signed off on it, I'm a little bit better with it, but that doesn't always make it right. The Cushing lawsuit is because the Cushing lawsuit did not get thrown out immediately, and I think is it a UK based lawsuit?
I can't remember.
Yeah, but that one's different to me. It's curious because it's a producer who claims he had a deal with Cushing in the 90s that he had to give permission. And Lucasfilm Disney didn't get any permission. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I'm not saying the guy's making it up. I'm saying it's a different journey than this. But to go back to the complicated nature of it, why maybe I'm giving a political debate answer is I also enjoyed the second go around with Luke Skywalker and Book of Boba Fett. The first, the Mando version, I was a little wonky on just maybe the appearance. But seeing Hamill being involved and actors making decisions and kind of a team effort to bring this to life, I sat there in Book of Boba Fett going, this is amazing. I can't believe what I'm seeing. But as we've said before here, if it's a new Disney Plus series, the live action adventures of younger Luke Skywalker, I'd want it to be an actor with no tricks, just a recast. And so it's complicated. It's case by case basis. We'll see. It's one of those things I'll just have to fill going forward now that he has passed. Now that it's passed. So we'll see.
Yep. And a lot of people in the comments are like, if the family gave permission, that is, and that's for me, that is the real starting point. I don't want choices to be made without the permission of those who have the sort of legal and moral right to make that decision.
Yeah. And John Webster Film adds, it's important to know that James Earl was consulted on the Vader performance at Kenobi, and I felt okay about it for that reason. That would obviously be not the case moving forward. Yeah, which is part of the conversation too. So yeah, great question, Rich T. I think something we needed to talk about.
And I'm sure we're not done talking about it, but I also want to share this from Matthew Stokes because I deeply agree with it. Matthew Stokes says, one of Vader's greatest lines was only printed in the comics. All I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. it would be a shame for us to not hear that.
Mm.
That line is great from one of the early Star Wars runs. I think it's the Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
I think it was a point where it's having a crossover with the Vader comics. I don't remember, but the rebels have laid a trap and they think they got him, and he's totally surrounded, and he's like, no.
Such a great action adventure line.
Yeah.
That brings up this question here from the Sabersmith, Joseph. What is your favorite version of Vader? Game Vader, animated Vader, live action Vader? Thanks for the live show. Look, I'll say this. I think live action Vader you can put on the shelf as like that Hall of Fame answer for me. I don't know about you, but it's like it's going to be hard to pass that one on the list here. So outside of that,
correcting me. Sorry that it's Vader down.
Vader down.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Vader
sorry,
down.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Nope, needed. No, information needed. I will say video game Vader. I think I look at Fallen Order as a great example of a game that frustrated me in terms of gameplay, maybe a little Jedi philosophy with the animals, but the story was wonderful. And when he showed up there, it felt big. It felt big, and I loved that, and loved the fear that it brought into you as a player of the game. Where you're like, oh no, Daddy's home. Oh boy, I got to get out of here. Yeah.
So well handled as we talked about. I love the agreed upon storytelling. It seems like that for the most part of a victory against Vader in that era is escaping him. You're not going to take it to Vader too much unless you're Kenobi or Ahsoka, and even then it's mostly a draw. For me, I mean, it's always going to be the film Vader, and probably because of my deep connection to it, Empire Strikes Back. They knew what they had with Vader. They were able to experiment with it. They were able to stretch it a little bit and have just a little bit of peek into the emotion, but still a terrifying badass. Right. I'd say just visually following up with that, I'm going to go with Rebels Vader in specific. It was great to see Clone Wars Vader at the end, very end of Clone Wars. But, you know, I loved the concept that the Rebels animation was based on Macquarie art. And then sometimes I'd get a little frustrated by that. You know, for myself, I always feel like the lightsabers are just a little bit too thin. It's one of those totally subjective, dumb little things that lots of people disagree with. But it always made me want to feel like I'm working in a Photoshop document. Like, can I make them just a little bit wider? But using the Macquarie art of Vader is the inspiration. And I think in particular was what happens is taking his rounded eyes and giving them a much more kind of nasty, owl-like downturn that makes just the design of his helmet look even sharper and nastier than the actual shapes of it in live action. I just love that animated version of Vader in Rebels. There's a great action figure. There's a 2-pack of him and Ahsoka from their duel. That's totally the action figure is entirely the animated Rebels Vader. And I just love that look.
And those are some peak Vader moments too, right? That whole arc and everything, and him showing up there. Yeah, I want to shout out Jay from Nowhere, who brings up the idea. Book Vader, when you get inside his personal torment, he outwardly conveys to no one. Love that too. I think of the moments in Lords of the Sith, Paul S. Kemp's book, an underrated book. It's now maybe close to 10 years old. Check it out, read it. Use that ForceCenter Audible credit if you'd like to check it out, listen to it. Paul S. Kemp did a great job, and one of my favorite moments is that's the first moment that we get to read from Vader remembering Ahsoka and Snips and having that moment, and that was like a big, well, how will we deal? Clone Wars has been going, but how in this new era are we going to bring this animated storyline that we had spent time in during the off years of Star Wars and connect it to what's going on now? And that was the first big moment. I loved it. So great stuff, Jay from Nowhere.
Yeah, I love him remembering that he had visited Ryloth before, but in a different kind of life, a different time, and you know he distances himself in a way. It was great to see that thought process of how does he handle strategic knowledge that he has from when he was Anakin, but still distances it himself from it and from those experiences is great.
I love that as well. We can get to some calls if you want, but I want to bring up Ajiwa Adama saying, not only will be known for his marvelous voice and acting roles, his presence commanded some of the great music themes as well. Imperial March and Royal theme from Coming to America. Let's not forget Coming to America. Yeah, just that's you almost can't plan that as a performer, but like you got your own entrance music now. You're forever tied. You walk in a room, people think of the Imperial March. That's a powerful thing.
Natalie Franchini says, I actually just listened to Lords of the Sith on
There you
Audible,
go.
but that's great.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, JC. It is almost 10 years old. Time has
Cruel.
no meaning anymore. It's cruel.
Cruel
It's
time.
cruel. All right. We got some comments, got some questions. What do you feel here, sir?
Why don't we go to a call?
All right. I believe it's Michael M., but I believe that's our good buddy Michael McCarcel. I call him Detective McCarcel because one day I couldn't remember what his first name was. Matthew, Michael, I'm going to call him Detective McCarcel. Matthew, how are you doing, buddy?
I actually forgot how you had come up with that one, to be honest.
You
It
know.
was something about you thinking my last name sounds like it should be a
Well, yeah, no, it's
canon detective or something.
Yeah, it's very McGarnacle. It's give me your badge, McGarnacle. So McCastle. Yeah, but Michael, thanks for calling in, buddy. Thoughts on James Earl Jones and Vader?
I think for me, he was the first time I realized the range of an actor as a kid, because like as 5 years old, I realized that Harrison Ford playing Han Solo and Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones wasn't really doing that much different as an actor. But for me, hearing his voice as Darth Vader and hearing his voice as Mufasa, and considering I don't remember the first time I watched either of those movies because I was born in '93. In fact, The Lion King premiered the day after my first birthday. So I just genuinely don't remember the first time I saw either of those movies.
They were just there.
But I was probably watching them by the time I was pushing 3 years old. And then by the time I was like 5, maybe 6, it really hit that, wait, that's the same guy. Because I'm not really reading the credits of the movies and you can't see his face. But I think for me, what it was, something clicked about the way he said father and son. Because both as Darth Vader, he's speaking about that, especially in Empire. And then when his ghost as Mufasa is speaking to Simba, he said, "You are my son." And just something in that way he pronounced it just clicked for me. I was like, wait a minute.
Hold on here.
And again, I was like 5, 6, and didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I had probably seen his face before and other things, but no idea.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of the power of his voice was deeply ingrained in me from genuinely for as long as I can remember. So
yeah.
That's one that I'll never be able to.
When you heard the connection, how did you verify it? Did you ask a parent, a loved one?
I had to have asked my mom or something. I don't remember too specific about how it came about, and honestly, I don't even remember which movie I was watching. Now that I think about it, something about the way he said "son" just clicked. and again, I watched those movies countless times. In fact, I think especially at a certain age, I probably knew Lion King better than I knew Star Wars. Because not only was I able to sing along or recite some of the lines, I would try to act out that movie to the best of my ability. I would occasionally try to play double duty, like when Scar kills Mufasa. Spoilers, guys. Sorry. But like, I would prop out the recliner in the living room and like hold on to the edge of it, pretending I was Mufasa, and then try to scramble up it to do the Scar part, and then back down to do Mufasa, and morbid, I know, from a young age.
That's the point. The process loss through play.
I used to jump off a playground into the pretend Sarlacc pit in the sand. So we all have our ways.
But yeah,
beautiful.
Rest in peace to one of the greatest.
Absolutely.
Yes. Y'all
Thank
take
you.
care. I've got a movie to go get ready for.
Go get ready for your me.
What movie?
Actually, I say movie. It's a stretch. It's the English premiere of an anime called Dan to Dan. Very strange series. A friend of mine got me into it, and they're doing I think it's like a Fathom Events or something like that, a special of like the first 3 episodes, which such a blessing because I'm going to be in the theater for less than an hour and a half, and I'm
That's.
I could go on a whole thing about how tired I am of the 3-hour movies, but I'll save that for another day.
Love it.
See you guys later. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Yeah. Someone who was in a movie theater Monday night. It was just the right amount of time for Beetlejuice. But I was getting antsy. My back was flaring up.
What is it, like Beetlejuice 2 hours?
It was like an hour 44, but
Ooh.
At AMC, and you sound like a hack comic or an old man complaining, but 33 minutes of pregame festivities,
something
like that.
Ken, it's coming up so much. I feel I must ask about your relationship to the Lion King. Have you seen it?
No,
I have not seen it either. This is yeah.
When did the live action, quote unquote live action, that was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So Grace and her sister, we went to it. We saw it at El Capitan, and I mean, Grace almost left me when I said I have never seen it.
I think we just lost some fans.
I know.
Wow. What? Ask nothing but dots from Nick. This is how much we trust you, that we can be honest like this. This is our vulnerability.
Holy bleep. Yeah.
I'm not mad, disappointed.
Look, here's the thing. I know it's part of my online brand over the years that I haven't seen a lot of movies, and it's just true. And you'd be surprised at what I have seen, and you'd be surprised what I haven't seen. But with this one, I was in high school. I was a junior in high school. There's just like, I don't know I'm not talking down to the form of animation, because I love it, and Bad Batch is my favorite Star Wars show, blah, 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 blah. But when you're in high school and it's the 90s and you're a Star Wars fan, the fact that James Earl Jones was in it was not even really known to me. You're not going to go spend your Friday night seeing a cartoon. And I hate, I'm not saying that now disparaging, but that was my mindset. And so I didn't see it. And then you just live your life and you don't know that you didn't see it. You don't know that you missed it. And that's what it was.
People are indeed shocked. Which
Paul, you shut up, Paul, with your whoa. You whoa.
Let me address this from Michael, because he's got to go get ready for his.
No.
Hold on.
No.
Did I actually just spoil Lion King for you guys? No. And that's the thing, is I feel as though I have seen and heard a lot of the movie because of the cultural knowledge. Exactly what Ken is saying. This is one of the first moments that I came to have respect for generational differences that has nothing to do with the quality of anything. It's just where you are in life. When it came out, excuse me, choking on my beer. When it came out, Simpsons was cool because it was, edgy and ironic and weird. But Disney at that point, for a teenager, was cute and safe. And Circle of Life, both in sound and in sentiment, was you'll be physically attacked for saying you like that, when the hottest things are heavy metal and edgier music of all kinds. It was just not anything that was even remotely on my radar. It was you're gonna go see the Disney movie with the Circle of Life song. It was so deeply uncool. Yeah. And then this has got to be like 2009. I taught a class to some high school kids who are all in musical theater, and I helped them put on a show at a theater festival. Like, I helped the kids write the show, and so we talked through like what are their inspirations, and they brought up Lion King, and I kind of laughed, and it's like, because I was trying not to embarrass myself in front of the kids, so I was trying to be cool, and they're like, Lion King. It's like, wait, you guys think Lion King is cool? I'm like, of course, it's the greatest film ever made, you old freak. And it was the first time I realized, like, oh, it was uncool to teenagers who wanted to be edgy, but of course the people who grew up with it loved it. All of you in our chat, of course you love it. So for me, I always hold it in my heart as one of those, like, oh, my perception was my perception. And people of different ages are going to have totally different perceptions, and that's actually great.
Yeah. And our buddy, and I use the term loosely, buddy, Kingsport Cal. No, he says Elton John makes a difference. This is the point. Love Elton John. Love Elton John.
It's an amazing song.
It's an amazing song.
Perspective of the time.
Yeah, but in 1993, it was like, what the hell is this rock legend doing this bleep? You know, like it wasn't like it wasn't a banger. It wasn't like the bitch is back. Like we're like, what's Elton John doing? Like what's he doing? And now I can have a different conversation about it. Now I can have I love what an artist. I love pop songs. I love that. I love big ballads. You know, you want me to sing Aerosmith from Armageddon? I'll do it. Like let's do it. But like in 1993 in high school, it was like eye roll. What is this schmaltzy Elton John stuff? That's Yellow Brick Road guy, which is true emotion and sentiment. Now it's this. It's like I'm Jack Black's character from High Fidelity. This, happy crap here. Like, yeah. So it was a different time. Yeah.
But I felt with all of the the Lion King love in the chat, I thought it would be interesting to explore.
Thank you. Paul Lansdowne says Ken's right. It was weird at the time. Thank you.
It's really weird. It wasn't just the sound. It was the sentiment. The circle of life. Everything's going to come together and be fine. We grew up with Nancy Reagan coming on our sitcoms and telling us not to smoke pot, and it made us angry at anything that sounded nice. We were afraid we were being served a bill of BS. Anything nice. That's why we love Wolverine. He kills people with his claws.
And look,
never made a RoboCop and Terminator, Murder, Death, Edgy.
Yeah.
Imagine being like, RoboCop is the greatest movie ever made, and then hearing the song "Circle of Life." That's where
exactly.
we're at.
Yeah, look, because this is 1993. I am pretending to not love American Tail and Fievel Goes West. I'm pretending to not know the words to the songs from that movie. So. Even if and shout out, kudos to anyone who just loved it in '93 and were in my high school. I'm sure there were those people existed. I think one of my friends loved it. Kudos to those who got on board at the right time and early, but we had to go through a process.
Musical theater people of all stripes, of all ages, always known the brilliance of Lion King.
But flash forward to just a few years ago when they put the live action version in the theaters, and again, I know quotations around live action. And we go see it, and you can have some thoughts on Disney doing those live action versions, but I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, and Grace is like, okay, I can stay with you. All right, we're still together. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Because there are no cats in America, and the streets are made with cheese. Love it. Come on, I cried that movie. Oh man, great stuff. I love when we get into some wild, silly things. We got some comment JC here. Thanks for the super chat. To James Earl Jones, loved him in the Sandlot. Talk about a baseball movie. He had not been Vader. What Star Wars character would he be cast as? Grievous, Palpatine. Oh, that's fantastic. You know what? Whoa. Now I looking. This might not have been the answer years ago when we had less storytelling to choose from, but James Earl Jones as a Jedi, but maybe who had walked away, not a lost Jedi, not a Sith, but someone, so you could get to some of the stuff you and I were talking earlier about Field of Dreams with the vulnerability and the strength, but the sound and the image of strength that he is. I would love to see him have a quiet fireside conversation about the Force and the Jedi Order.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah, it would have been amazing if he had been able to play like a Terra Sinube like aged Jedi who had either walked away or had some lessons to teach. Would be amazing.
Yeah. Another super chat here from UW fan Jim, Mr. Myrtle and the Sandlot again, and read Twilight Company. This is great. Jim's got a running joke. He does this on my show, The Blather, as well. He really wants me to read Twilight Company, a book that you and I, Joseph, for reasons I don't remember, skipped when we were back in the days we were reading pretty much anything and everything for the channel.
Before we started, and then
we just didn't catch up. That was it.
Caught up with it. It was always intended, but we just never caught up. Yeah.
But I'm gonna.
I have no doubt. I've got it.
I'm gonna. I like it.
Oh yeah. James Earl Jones is the Bendu. That's beautiful.
Ooh,
no disrespect to my beloved Tom Baker. Take the beer off the Tom Baker coaster I have right here. But besides that, it'd be great as Bendu.
Love it there. Yeah, you got cast James Earl Jones as Boss Nass. Laserbolt saying he would make a great Obi-Wan. I could see that too. Absolutely. Yeah. What if they had switched the roles and it was Alec Guinness as Vader, and James Earl Jones is Obi-Wan. I could have liked that.
Amazing.
Him as Lando wouldn't have been bad either there for Matthew Stokes. Good stuff. All right, we got a call from our friend here, 8984M, a.k.a. Brady, a.k.a. Kyrie. 8984M, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Share us your James Earl Jones stories.
Man, James Earl Jones. I actually knew him, like, he was the only actor as a kid that I knew that was in Star Wars. Beforehand, I didn't know the names of Luke Skywalker. I just thought he was like Luke and there was Leia. I just thought they were actually real people.
Oh, yeah, was their names? Yeah, Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
But James Earl Jones, I think, is because going to school, especially in LA, you just learn about like his legend because LA has a big performing arts community. And especially as a kid, we watched documentaries about him just talking about his craft. And especially when we started getting to Shakespeare, he was talking about like the ways he would read Shakespeare. I forget what's the meter the Shakespeare's written.
Iambic pentameter?
Iambic pentameter, yes. Yeah, and he would go into his line readings because he was so skilled at it. We had to be pointed out like where the meter was because the way he said it just sounded so natural. But yeah, and then I actually watched Star Wars later, and just to like appreciate the performance,
Yeah.
And yeah, he's.
That's great. No, I again, that's a perspective thing too, and I love it. Yeah, that's a wonderful that you're like, hey, the documentary guys in Star Wars.
Yeah, and the Shakespeare thing is fascinating because there are, different schools of thought. There are people who are like, you do not fight the iambic pentameter. You say the entire thing like poetry, and that's how the meaning comes out. And then you have actors who are like, let's take that beautiful poetry and make it sound like a human said it. And I generally think that works quite well. So I'm glad to hear that that's what you experienced from James Earl Jones.
What choice did Keanu Reeves make in Much Ado About Nothing?
You know what? I also haven't seen that film. I just want to let that out there in case that's going to upset anybody.
But this is what will upset people, Joseph. I saw it in theaters because it was 1995, and you went to the theaters to see Kenneth Branagh doing Shakespeare with Keanu Reeves and Denzel Washington.
Keanu Reeves was in Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I said this on a recent ForceCenter. It's like you've like Matrix was a comeback picture for Keanu Reeves because it was like Bill and Ted still going. Yeah.
He got lambasted for his British accent in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and to me a very funny shot where he looks frightened by nudity, which fair enough. Anyway, I don't need to belabor that. Fans of the film know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he was down and out, and they used, he was just the whoa guy. He was the guy who said whoa.
Whoa, yeah.
And they used his whoa in The Matrix in the commercial and the trailer.
Wait,
and
really?
A lot of people I was like, they got Keanu out there saying whoa, some of the action looks cool, but I'm not watching that. And then people saw the film and like, it ain't that. It ain't Bill and Ted in a trench coat. It ain't that. It was a huge comeback.
Rufus is not in this picture.
I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought he just said whoa a lot. I didn't know they use that in marketing. What?
It's
He
fascinating.
was so associated with it. Like back, if you said Keanu Reeves, how still to this day, sometimes if you say J.J. Abrams, people will just be like lens flare. If you said Keanu Reeves, people would just be like, whoa. That was the joke of that's what he said.
Yeah.
The entirety of his charm and experience.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the 90s, Mr. Banks, to quote Father of the Bride and Martin Short. Yeah, no, it was a time. It was a time. But James Earl Jones transcended all times there, to bring it back to James.
I wanted to mention that he has an EGOT, and especially on stage, I think. I think for me personally, I think he's one of the GOATs, like greatest of all time in terms of acting. And I don't think people mention him enough is because he was a stage actor. That's how he started his career. He had to debut on film. And my favorite non-Star Wars performance of James Earl Jones is in Fences. I never got to see that, of course, because I was born then. But we had to watch his the scene where the son of his character says like, why haven't you ever loved me?
Oh, that clip went around. That clip went around this week. I just watched it this week. It was yeah.
And I watched that in a documentary as a kid, like the same one when we were learning about Shakespeare. And I felt James Earl Jones was my dad. Like, I felt like I was getting lectured. Like, oh my god, this is in a film video, so the power does not translate as much. So I can only imagine how that must have felt like when you're in the audience. And, I was on my desk standing up straight, like the son's character was like, oh my god, and it's just I think he understands like how to, it's like stage presence. Obviously, I'm not an actor, so I'm just I'm a sieve, as they say in The Acolyte. So I'm sure you both will understand this more. But it's like he understands stage presence. I feel like there's a presence in voice when it comes to voiceover. He just understands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just truly a phenomenal actor, and I think people, you brought it up, a couple other people have brought it up, Brady, the story, that was really been going around this week of him having the stutter as a kid, and his story that he told of writing poetry to express himself, and the teacher saying, "I bet you'd like to share that with the class. You got to say it," and that helped him get over the stutter, and I know, speaking disabilities like that are complex, but in terms of James Earl Jones' story, that to me told me a lot about him as an actor of like, I want to share it so bad. It gets me past these other things going on in my head, these other, anxieties or troubles. But the fact that it was a motivation to be like, I want to be heard. I want to share. I think that's where a lot of stage presence comes from, is knowing that like, but I'm not here just for vanity, or I'm not here just to be loud or to do it the way somebody else told me, but like I have something I want to communicate to other people. And I think that's what made him such a great actor and such a great presence of that desire to communicate something.
I love that.
Right.
Well said,
and
sir.
I think that also extends to like, I think we know that George admits that he doesn't like writing dialogue, and his experience with like Shakespearean dialogue, I think really helped his lines. I mean, there weren't that many lines in A New Hope, and most of them were exposition lines, but he just gave it in such a natural way. And I never thought of this, but like Joseph, you mentioned that he was kind of brought in later too, so he didn't have the benefit of like screen time, so he had to fit everything within the already recorded scenes. And it just comes off so naturally. Like you can't imagine anyone else in that role. Yeah,
indeed. Singular. You're making me think of General, tear this ship apart until you found those plans. Him getting angry again. Vader in the office. Tear the ship apart. Brady, thank you so much for calling in and sharing all the insights, especially the Shakespeare side of it all.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, yeah. Whoa. We're getting to a lot of spots here today.
A great tour of all of the cultural spokes leading off from James Earl Jones.
You had highlighted this one. I think it's great to bring it up here, Joseph. LQ was lucky to see James Earl Jones on Broadway once. He played an ex-president in The Best Man. Such authority. LQ, that's great. Yeah.
Ken, with all of the various performances being discussed, what is on your list to experience?
Well, it's going to have to be the animated Lion King, I guess. Now, I guess when Grace I pick her up from LAX tomorrow, I'm going to be like, we have to watch Lion King, or else I lose a lot of ForceCenter listeners. If I don't watch
Maybe
it.
We need to do a ForceCenter episode about it.
ForceCenter episode. I totally forgot he was like in Patriot Games and that whole world. I love that stuff.
Danger, yeah.
Yeah, is he in Clear? Yeah, he is in Clear and Present Danger. Yeah. Oh God, I love that movie. That suburban. That's one of the most anxiety-ridden scenes in the history of film. That suburban scene down a alley. I might be something like that. Coming to America, seeing that side of him. I might be looking forward to that. But also, I think I'm going to put on Empire too at some point. I haven't had a chance this week. It's been a busy week. So I might put on a good old fashioned Star Wars just to hear that, just to live inside those syllables as they come rolling out of the Mask of Vader. Indeed. Grace is gonna be like, "What did you do?" No, she'll be excited. There we go. We got that one there. Our buddy Ken Plume is here with some support. Thanks for the super chat. Bring back figure fights. I am ready. I think you're saying that in a better voice. We'll try it. We'll try it one day. We'll get the figures up. We'll get the figures off the shelf.
We need to retool it so it's more off the cuff. We meant figure fights to be a real easy breezy thing, and then I went overboard on the stats that I was pulling, and then Ken made graphics for the stats, and
stats were
had
good.
To build them into the episode, and it's like, but I just love knowing how many points of articulation the figures had. But we will bring it back. We'll work on it.
We'll work on it there. You, sir, what anything you're going to highlight in your James Earl Jones viewing plans?
Yeah, I mean, Lion King has been on the list for a long time because I can't remember if my wife has seen it or parts of it or just saw it as a kid. You know, she's of our generation as well. But we have seen the Tom Clancy verse films, but those would be really fun to revisit. So I think those are up there on the list. And Conan. And I don't know if my wife's seen Field of Dreams, so I can rewatch Field of Dreams with her too.
There you go. Oh, that's definitely. I have seen Conan, but it was one of those ones of I couldn't tell you when or where. Probably on VHS, or maybe on TBS or something. You know, so one of those ones like, and it didn't connect with me. And I like Arnold well enough. He and my dad were born in the same town, not too far apart in terms of time. So I've always had a little love for Arnold, but it just didn't connect with me. And I got to tell you, it was weird because his character, he's got that axe, right? He doesn't have a beard, but he has long hair. I just remember going, I just gonna, as a kid, just going, I'm gonna go back to Star Wars.
Now that we've also discussed a lot of his work, his filmography with great respect, there's also a YouTube video that I'm going to revisit that I'm sure other people have seen. That is performances from all of his non-Star Wars film dubbed over with his Vader scene. So it looks as though Vader is having these very much more grounded real-world conversations than Star Wars. And it's I remember it being just very, very funny. In a way, funny, but in a way a tribute to how vast his career is. He's not just Vader.
I'm going to seek out that clip too, because that's one of those ones. And I remember, I don't know who sent it to me. That's a few years old now, right? But sometimes if you send me stuff like that, I'm like, I don't care, and I get real grump. I'm like, I don't care. I don't like when Star Wars is made fun of. I don't care. And that was one of the ones that, even despite my I don't care, I was like, oh God, this is funny, and I couldn't have that attitude.
It's great. One of the original YouTube videos to me. You got another suggestion from our pal Ken. I also need you all to watch Sneakers and see James Earl Jones walk in and walk away with a movie that's packed with a ridiculous cast. All right, I'll add that to the list too.
See, I've gotten a lot of crap from Plume about not seeing Sneakers, and I'm glad you're with me too. I never watched it, and it's got a great guy, Aykroyd, Poitier, Redford.
My list of films I've seen is really, really spotty and weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Julian says he has great memories of seeing Conan in the theater with my dad, and backs it up. The Sneakers is a really good movie. I don't doubt that for sure. So I'll get there. We're here for about another half hour. So if you want to call into the show, you can become a supporter on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. We have a post up that has a link to the StreamYard here. We take your audio, so you don't need to worry about the video. And you can call in and share some of your favorite James Earl Jones moments or your favorite Vader moments, all those kind of things, or just yell at us for the movies we haven't seen. Part of the themes today, and we'll lecture you on the history of Keanu Reeves and pop culture.
It's great that we can have this conversation.
Yeah, it's because he starts so strong. And then Point Break is an all timer for a lot of folks. I'm an FBI agent. Yeah, it's great. And then it just something happens. Next thing you know, we got Shakespeare, Dracula, A Walk to Remember, and suddenly, poof, he's done. He's a joke. And then, thankfully, he's playing bass in Dog Star, and people didn't know what to do with that. And thank God, Keanu Reeves pushed through that, so the world could still enjoy him. So there you go.
Will phrased it well here. Will Dixon. Keanu was coming off Johnny Mnemonic, A Walk in the Clouds, Shakespeare, and a rough Harker. A rough portrayal of Jonathan Harker, but I love what did you do today? I had a rough Harker.
Rough Harker.
Rough Harker.
Yeah.
8984M was asking about and Will already found it. The Vader Sessions, for anybody listening. The Vader Sessions is the name of that YouTube video. Where James Earl Jones' other performances are dubbed over Vader scenes.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. If you guys have any thoughts and comments in the chat, leave them here so we can talk about your favorite James Earl Jones moments, the legacy, as we celebrate the life and times of James Earl Jones. So much there. Such a lot. Joseph, you said earlier his career being one of importance too, is who he was and where he was and what he emerged from, in so many different angles. I like that as well, and that's part of. I was always just so proud and happy to have him in Star Wars as in the Star Wars family, if that makes sense. Like he's on the team, it's one of ours, and he's done good. He made a difference and continues to. I love that part of James Earl Jones as well. So love celebrating that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Addie says, hold on, Cameron was not in A Walk to Remember. Yeah, what was he in? Everyone knows the one I'm thinking of. It was like late 90s. Wine, something, drink the wine, walk in the clouds. That's it. That's the one. Yeah. Walk in the clouds. Anthony Quinn's in it. Giancarlo Gianni's in it, who's Mathis from James Bond. There you go.
Yeah, Speed. That's
Speed.
Damn.
Yeah,
Speed was great.
95.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why was he having such a hard time? But he was.
He was. It's worth studying. It's worth studying.
Yeah, it's worth. Well, now we're gonna have to have a James Earl Jones, Keanu Reeves double feature. I'm gonna watch Constantine, followed by The Lion King, and that's gonna be my night.
Jay from Nowhere has a great James Earl Jones line is from Field of Dreams. He said your finger was a gun, which is I absolutely love that. But we were talking about that earlier. But I just love
hit you with a crowbar. My new favorite.
PLD. He was definitely walking. Keanu was walking at some point in the 90s. He was walking in the clouds or remembering. So.
Or on a bus. A bus in the clouds.
Love that there. There you go. Anything else here you want to hit at here, sir? I'm scanning through here.
I think we took all the questions. I think we shocked people with our Lion King that we have not seen it. We have got several Keanu Reeves films incorrect. I think we've accomplished everything we set out to do here today.
There you go. Well, we can start to bring the episode to a close. Thank you all who joined the show today, left super chats, comments, questions, and part of the fun atmosphere as always. We'll be back next week with normal programming here. It's still a little bit of time to Skeleton Crew, but I'm excited to start getting more marketing for that show, and so we can start looking to our holiday season Star Wars fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that very much. And we'll talk about what we're going to talk about next, Ken.
Absolutely. Thank you all. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.
ForceCenter.